sitting.
I don't know where else to put them. Start stacking them up and down and crossways.
What award did we get now?
Oh, no, that's an old one.
Oh,
Must have taken it
Bet-
down to put something else up.
best looking county board chair. something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was about.
That was the previous one.
Yeah, that
That
was
was
the
the
first.
previous one.
You must be talking about exec finance chair.
Oh, look at this. Welcome to beautiful Trempealeau County.
4. Well, that's supposed to be there for the WebEx. Oh, wait, I was supposed to, yeah, John, you
Hey.
said I had 5 minutes.
You
now, but
updated the
that clock
Whitehall
went
map.
already.
Nice.
Well, that was when we were up there yet in 5 minutes.
Where's Rick?
Rick-
I say, he
Rick
walks in
is
the door.
here.
I said, where's Rick
Speak of
now?
the devil.
You know, we missed you last month.
Yes, I was on vacation last month, unfortunately.
I know, that's,
Unfortunately,
and all
No.
we could think of was, well, he's gonna call in on the WebEx.
Oh,
Where-
sure.
Weren't you in Vegas or?
Palm Springs. Started in Vegas, went to Palm Springs.
It's a state of mind.
So
Yeah,
we
right.
just added to
I
this
started
month.
in Ettrick and went to Polaris.
Did you?
Did you make any money in Vegas?
Just went there to visit the family.
Oh,
My daughter and her family live there, so. Not a big gambler.
I'm not either because I don't have enough money to do it right.
I thought the old saying is, what you pay in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas.
Something about
What happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. That's the money part too.
Well,
Dick Seisha, oh yeah, you missed the meeting last week.
yeah, he did.
But anyway, Dick said that he more likely had a funeral
Okay,
today, and that he would more than likely not be.
okay. So I'll call the meeting to order at 8:33. I can verify that certification open meeting law requirements have been met. You have a 17-item amended agenda in front of you.
Move for adoption.
Move for adoption.
Second.
And we have a second.
Third.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we have minutes, you were given a minute, or copy of the minutes of the previous meeting. A motion to approve those?
Move to approve.
Move to approve the previous minutes, and we have a second. Anybody see any changes or corrections in those? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of adopting the minutes of the previous meeting signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we do, if someone is listening or watching us, we do have a public comment period now. The number you can call is 715-538-1770. If you don't make it in the next couple of minutes, please feel free to call at any time.
You really got that down.
Has it,
You don't even need the script anymore.
has anybody ever had a call during that time?
I think we did once.
I know it has. I've never had one, so. Well, we'll move on, and if they call, we can listen to their comments. Okay, Paul, county sales tax update?
Okay, the payment for December was $196,791.07. Compared to $200,121 last year and $164,000 the year before. So we're sitting at $1,107,391.75. And if you look at the bottom of that column, our budget is $1,150,000. We actually increased it for last year.
Change your 1 to a 2.
Yeah, we're not reading the same page or something.
You keep saying 1 million something and 1 million something. It's 2.
2 million, I'm sorry, yes, 2,107,391.75. But we're budgeted was 2,150,000. So we have 2 months to make up $42,000. So we're gonna be over that again this year.
It's amazing how that sales tax just keeps coming in.
Yup.
What, is
Keep
December,
buying Amazon.
is December big because of Christmas buying usually, or not really?
No,
No.
this would be probably
This would be
yeah,
November.
the Black Friday maybe,
Okay.
but, that probably wasn't as big.
Okay.
I'm always a Black Friday shopper, and the lines weren't like they used to be, like they said, but.
Okay, any questions for Paul about the sales tax update? Okay, Paul, you're up again then, general
Okay.
fund.
And that, we have the actions that took place at the December 20th county board meeting. 3 items, attorney fees, Vesta, and Acquiture. Anyway, our unassigned fund balance now is at $2,975,000, $234,78.
Any questions for Paul about the fund balance? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to our department updates. Ann, you're up first here.
All right. I thought instead of telling you a bunch of numbers, I would do a little show and tell.
Ooh.
I'm so appreciative.
So I'm gonna hop on the computer over there.
Okay, thank you.
And can I just grab any of these mics?
Yes,
here?
you can grab any of them, yes.
Except that one.
As long as you turn it on, except that one.
So I handed out a little sheet here that kind of explains some of the website that we maintain. The first one is our GIS and tax information, and that's what you see here. And this is where anyone from the public can log on or click on it and enter any name, address, parcel number. It's searching. And then find out the tax information. They can find out the documents that were recorded with that property. Here. Oh, give it one more try.
So you can put in parcel number or name or road or?
Road name, address, any township range section, anything like that. For some reason that didn't work that time.
December was a busy month, huh?
Yeah. So it's supposed to link to the tax information here.
I used it many
It
times.
does, you
It
just
does.
have to click on
Click on
See,
the
I'm
what?
clicking on the detailed tax information here.
yeah, you are on the tax site, but on top, the tabs, you need to, I'm sure, yeah, it doesn't get you to the actual.
Well, I'll show you what it'll bring up this way. There. So up here is your property information, and then your tax information. Your assessment information, any documents associated with that parcel. Here's the documents here. So you could go into the Registry of Deeds and research that yourself. And then any permits that are linked to that parcel as well. Because we have this website with all that information out there, we're losing people coming into the office asking for that information. So we lose a little bit in money from people not coming in and asking for maps, but it really gives everyone in the county information they need. I know a lot of realtors use it, a lot of assessments or assessors use it, and then people from the public.
Are those all lots, those long, thin?
Yep,
things coming off
yep.
the end? Wow.
That's just someone deeding a couple feet to the neighboring property.
Oh, okay.
One of the neat things you can do on this is look at our historic aerial photos,
I love this.
and you can slide it. I'll zoom in a little.
Is this a fairly new program?
No, this has been this way for maybe 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
You can slide from 2020 and then see what it looked like in 2017.
So, yeah, and
Here, and here's 2020 back 10 years, what our aerial flight looked like. Here's 2020, and here's what it looked like in 2010.
which was still black and white.
Yeah.
How often do you update the aerial photo?
The aerial photos we're on a
3-year?
3-year
3 year,
plan, yeah.
okay.
So is it,
So we did it in 2020, and we'll have it done again in 2023.
there was, I don't remember if there, oh, look at that oxbow. Is there any need to be updating any of the, well, here we go, the LiDAR?
We will be doing a LiDAR flight in 2023. We got federal funding
Oh, okay.
along with our state grant.
Is there a better resolution, more technology?
Yeah,
Uh,
all of that.
Okay, cool.
Yep, so this is the hillshade, which is essentially a model of the Earth. And you can use the photo along with that model of the Earth to get a more detailed information on that. Are there any questions on the web mapping application?
Not really, Ann, but Tim Robertson told us last week that you were down for a day or two or something like that with some problems. Is that fixed?
Yes, that is fixed.
Okay.
That's fixed. When we're down like that, we do have a note on the website where you click to log on to this that says, you know, we're experiencing issues.
Okay.
I did want to show you a few other websites that we maintain. Let's see. There's the Surveyor's Portal, which we started during COVID. Hopefully it's working. And this is for surveyors to get information to see if there was a certified survey map done or a map of survey done. This keeps the foot traffic out of land management. They can do the research here. And each one of these dots here represents a map. The orange dots are a map of survey. And it says that there's a map of survey done here. And then it links to the PDF. So they can get that information from home or from their office.
Wow.
The green dots are certified survey maps. We just give the information on that since we cannot give them that. They have to get that from the Register of Deeds office. And then each corner monument is also up here for them to do their research. And that's linked to the PDF of that. So on the sheet I gave you, it says that in the last year we had over 80,000 hits on that website requesting information.
Requests per day, 239?
87,
Yeah.
Wow.
it says.
Are there that many
Well, that's every
surveyors
time
out
somebody at
there?
home
No, but I would bet that they
That's a-
spend a day just doing research.
Oh.
You know, different customers.
Real estate company.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who, I mean, even homeowners can use it. It's not just for surveyors, but it's out there for a tool for them. Another one, is there questions on this? Another one we maintain is,
People snooping on their neighbors. People snoop on their neighbors, you know, see what they're paying for tax.
Speak
Lot
for
of that.
yourself.
A lot of that.
Little Big Brother's watching.
Right.
another one we maintain is a map of Petrick Park. that shows all the campsites. So people can look and see what they might want to reserve ahead of reserving them. And it explains if there's electric, water, or nothing.
That's on
Over-
the same site?
This is a whole different site. This is
Well-
accessed through the tourism site
Okay.
or tourism link.
Did you enhance the green to make it more attractive?
No. This green?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
that's the way
that's
it
supposed to be
looks.
water. Yeah, that's a backwater
That's the
there.
backwater, yeah.
So on top of that,
Go
it
algae.
also has the trails that people can hike. And that one had over 100,000 hits in the past year. And here,
Does this map include the 6 acres that were just donated?
not yet, no, because we haven't gotten a survey for that in.
Oh, okay.
So it will. And whatever they decide to do with that, I'm not sure. The next one that we just created and had a lot of hits on is, I want to, yeah, I'm getting there. This mouse is a little, I'll just do it that way. Voting information, let's see if it's here. County board.
I'll be in. I'm going to register.
Ah, there,
This weekend,
ooh.
got all my papers.
Okay, you can stop there.
I can't find that one.
Election results? What are you looking
Well,
for?
what I have is, I have the new supervisory district maps.
Oh,
So
oh,
people
oh.
can enter their address and find out where they'll be voting, or as people are running, they can find out their districts and the addresses within it. It's,
Oh, really?
yeah.
So
And
you-
I created that in November,
Mhm.
and I've already had almost 40,000 hits.
Where is,
Here, I found it, it's under government. See what voting district you're in?
Oh, cool.
The one thing on that one, it has the addresses, but it doesn't have the people's names, right?
Right, no names.
But we have that in our office, we got
Right.
the names.
Oh, you do? It's from the Elections Commission? Cool.
You have the names of everyone in that district? Cool.
You could, oh, I did the wrong thing. You could do it by, parcel ownership, but that doesn't necessarily mean that person who owns that parcel lives
Right.
within that
So
parcel.
we have it as registered voters, yep.
Oh.
So the more you zoom in,
So is that something you can't make public knowledge?
No, it's
They
okay.
can't.
Oh, I see. So there's the addresses.
public can't get into
Yeah.
this vote.
No.
the more you zoom
guys
in, the
can.
more information's gonna come up
can't?
here.
It's very secured.
Okay.
And then it also tells you what district it is.
Wow. Look at all- Oh, that's Blair.
I can tell it is.
So,
What is that?
so like I said, we've had almost 40,000 hits on that since November.
Who's got a pink district?
That one is, there's no incumbent in that district.
Ooh, nobody probably wants to be either. They don't want to be associated with pink.
What?
Just, John wants you to change the color of the district around Blair.
I'd say that's a magenta.
Yeah.
Magenta. That's what that is.
Is
It's
that-
not pink.
And then I'll just show you one more that we created during COVID for people to get information, and then we maintained it after COVID. This was for people to get information on what was open and what
Oh, yeah.
may have been closed, but now we just continue to maintain that just for public information.
Oh, submit status of your business, it will be added to the
Yep,
website.
yep, and then we added surveys here, if you had community events that were canceled or still on. Yeah, this is interactive, so the public can add anything they would like to.
And you've got the Wi-Fi locations available? That's pretty cool.
Yep, yep. The general store, food, grocery, personal services,
Raised I do.
anything that was canceled. But now we've updated it to have community events that are ongoing now, so you can get any information like.
So you could go to the school and see what games are on and all
Yeah.
that? Cool.
Yep, and so then with those points that you saw on there, you can see that we have the commercial business and their phone number and their address, so, or a website. And we look at that about once a month and update it. And that one, after COVID, so January 3, 2021 till January 3 now, had almost 60,000 hits. So, the reason I'm showing you this is to show you that our mapping's not just for GIS and property information, that we collect a lot of information and serve that out to the public. And I won't show you all the other ones, but we do have one for highway road construction that we get information from the highway department, what roads and time of year they're gonna be working on them and if they're closed. ATV routes, bicycle routes, trout easements, scenic drives, wildlife areas, just about anything that people would want to come into this county and know where they can go to do those kinds of things, tourism kind of information. Is there any questions?
Could I just throw one thing in too?
Yeah.
Just the other day, both John and I got an email from the LTS, whatever, I can't remember how it goes.
Women's League of Women's.
No.
No.
It's a legislative.
State legislative
It's the
bureau.
thing with that he was wondering if we had start doing anything, because we're already working on the maps for the next census. And that's what that was, and that's what Ann keeps the maps up to date.
Yep. Anytime there's an annexation,
Annexation.
I submit, there's 2 times a year I submit it to the states so they can make sure that,
And we just found out that I think Arcadia just annexed again.
They did.
Yes. So already our maps are
yeah,
old.
yeah, they're out
I
of
think-
date pretty much right away
Yep. So
due to annexations.
What kind of cost are we looking at to maintain this information?
This information, this is something that we maintain in-house. It's part of our software that we use, ArcGIS. They offer this service for ArcGIS Online.
Oh,
So we
okay.
can serve this out to anyone online without really needing an IT department to
Okay.
be helping us. So our maintenance for that software is about $20,000 a year.
Okay.
And I'd like to, I had a question previous to Chuck's, but actually it piggybacks off Chuck. So I'd like to be able to talk with people intelligently and accurately about the service they're receiving here that really isn't costing them anything. You alluded earlier, this reduces foot traffic, which probably reduces handing money over the counter. So it hurts our income, the county's income that way, but on the other hand, the county is still paying for this indirectly. Is there any more you can say about this? Can you give us some dollars, actually? You just mentioned $20,000 a year to maintain the.
So that's for our software, which we use outside of this in-house for creating GIS. And that, with that software, we get this application, as part of that software. And then because we spend that much money, we get credits to serve this software. It's kind of confusing, and half the time I don't understand it
Credits from
because.
whom?
Esri?
Esri?
ESRI.
Oh, okay, that's a mapping service.
Yep, yep. But the one thing is, even though it reduces, people coming in and paying $5 for a map, it helps the public. So, I mean, if they can sit at home and do that instead of driving here, I think it's a helpful thing.
I agree. I'd just like to be able to articulate that idea to people who are complaining about not getting anything from the county and paying all this tax
Right.
money and we don't get a darn thing. So,
Well, and I'm
okay.
hoping that since I did this here and people are watching, that they may be able to see what they can access and do.
Thanks.
All this is under the Trumbull County website.
Yep.
So when one does statistical analysis, there's formulas, there's data collection, there's, you throw out a theory, you try to make sure that, you try to decide if that's true or not. And so I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you, because you've shown us a lot of data. Have you thought at all, have you drawn any conclusions from, well, let's just say the Petrick Park website? The 110,000 people who have come to the website, 302, average 302 per day. Can you draw a conclusion or as to if that's greater or less exposure to the information about the Petrick Park, if it indicates something about where public interests lie outside of the county? I guess data is good, but if we make decisions, like this discussion about where the money goes, it's because of this information, should we be thinking more about investing more in the park so as to expand its resources that are available?
Well, it's hard to
just
tell,
threw a question
George.
out
I mean, this is the first year that this has been out
Okay.
and that I've been able to get data. And it's hard to tell what people do when they're on the internet getting information. I mean, clicking on campsites, it doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna go there. You're just getting information. You're just getting information. So it's hard to say. But one thing I will say is with the software program, we get this information, these statistics, with that software program. So it's nice to see that what we're doing isn't for nothing, that people are actually, even if they're bored and clicking around looking at campsites, they're using it. They're getting information from the county.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have a,
No, it was a loaded question because if you don't have enough information, you weren't actually doing a statistical analysis.
No.
You were just sharing, but that's what we do with this data, is try to come up with what it means and how do we respond to it.
Sitting on the phone for 15 minutes answering questions about what does this campsite look like? What does
Right.
that campsite look like? What does the third campsite look like? It's costing the county a lot of money, so it avoids that.
Yeah.
Yep. Any other questions?
Well, thank you, Ann.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you very much.
Yep.
Very useful information. Okay, Paul, you have your update?
Well, mine's not gonna be as lengthy.
Yeah, top that.
Yeah, top that.
You
I was
just came
gonna
in,
say,
you said, "Oh, I got 5
Ann
minutes."
took all my time. No. Kidding, Ann.
She's up.
She heard.
Turn your mic on, Paul.
Oh, I've done it. Not a lot to report, other than nomination papers are due tomorrow by 5. It's a deadline. As soon as that's done, we'll know if there's going to be any primaries on the February 15th. At this point, there are people that have papers out in at least 2 districts that would require primaries, but if they don't get their papers in, there might not be a primary. So, and then the election is April 5th. And as soon as we get all the papers together tomorrow by 5, we'll start getting the ballots ready for April or February, if need be. Everything else in the office is running smoothly. That's about all.
At this point, do we have any districts with no candidates?
No districts right now have nobody that's come and got papers. So that's kind of a good thing.
So all districts are filled with at least,
Are there any districts where no one has filed papers?
that's what I meant.
Right now, yes.
But there's still the
But
last
they-
minute.
But they've got papers out. The one that was the biggest concern, because there was no incumbent in that, it was down by Galesville, it's District 4. But we got somebody that came and got papers for that one, and we're good.
Great.
Okay, anything else for Paul?
I just,
Go ahead.
again, because people are watching, it's possible to file as a write-in candidate after the deadline?
They have to register if they want their votes to be counted, yes.
Okay, as a write-in candidate.
As a write-in. You can't just ask people to write your name in, because we will not count any unregistered write-ins.
Okay, that is an alternative.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, that's important information too, because some people think they're
Well,
going
I'll
to get
just
together.
write somebody in. Well, that
Yeah.
person's got to be in and register.
So the vote will not count if the write-in is not registered. Good,
Yep.
good to know. Okay, anything else for Paul? Okay, thank you. Rick?
Yeah,
Top that, no.
I know I'm a couple of things.
Turn your mic on.
Oh, sorry, thank you. I'll just give a general update first, and then we can get into the other items. Things are busy as usual. Brittany has been out since October, will be coming back later this month. She'll be very happy. Otherwise, things have been going relatively smooth in her absence. Yeah, like I said, I can go into some of these other things that we're going to touch on here, but just generally speaking, things have been going relatively smooth since she's been gone, and I'm just anxious for her to come back, so.
Go ahead.
The, most of your time is done in court or with commitment cases or so on, so do you have kind of a breakdown of percentage of your time doing stuff like that?
Sure.
Not to mention advising every department on things legal.
Sure, right.
Yeah.
And I do normally bring a summary of the previous year. Brittany prepares that for me, and so she has all that summary. But because it's just the first Monday of January, I'll bring that to you guys the next time I'm here as to number of cases, how many we've proceeded on, those types of things. Generally speaking, I would say that the case numbers are at or above what they have been in previous years. And I'm going to go into more detail on that in one of these further items that we're coming up on. Yeah, I spent a lot of time on the mental commitments, the guardian mental and alcohol commitments, guardianships and protective placements. Those are probably the main ones. Child support is another big area that my office handles, of course. And then there are other court avenues as well, like zoning site violations, and there's some other stuff with human services regarding substantiation of abuse and neglect, those types of things. Have had a number of juvenile guardianships this past year. I think we had 4 of them, which is unusual for them to do, but it's just another avenue for them to utilize versus the CHIPS option. So, but no termination of parental rights cases as of yet since they've been transferred over. So, yeah, and then otherwise advising other departments. But I'll give you a better idea on the number of cases and a breakdown of those at the next time when we can put that information together. Yep.
Okay.
Is there any other questions as a general proposition?
Okay.
Then the next item was also kind of part of Lori and myself. As you are aware, there was those tax foreclosed properties that we had published bids on. No bids were received on any of the properties. And I forgot to mention the last time we were here, by law, we're required to initially bid them the first time at fair market value unless there's a reason not to, and you guys make a record of it at the meeting. So we did them at fair market value, so today you get to decide what we're gonna rebid them at. And in case people didn't have what we had last time.
Just happened to have forgotten.
So, and there's 3 properties, and there's the summary for each of those 3 properties here that I'm gonna hand out.
This isn't take one and pass it down.
I'll just say, yeah, since I like to walk around a little bit, so.
Thank you. Lori, did you get any inquiries on any of these?
Yeah, a couple of them we did.
Are these people just waiting for us to
Thank
drop
you.
the price?
Yes, they are.
Well, you know,
Well, two of them are in there, one's a vacant lot, and one is the lot.
Really what it comes down to is just this committee determining what you want to set as the sale price, and we'll republish and go through the bidding process again.
where's our town of Blair, city of Blair assessor, or expert, aren't you the city of Blair expert, Paul?
I don't know if I'm the expert.
Expert on land values? I think you could probably buy the whole city for $30,000, couldn't you?
No, come on.
Are we gonna start with Town of Sumner? Just for,
That was the one that was on top, yeah.
Sure, yep.
Should we do that, Town of Sumner? So you're asking us to set a price that we're willing to go down to?
Correct, yes.
So this is a strip of land with,
It's that kind of a junky
as
building.
I recall, sort of run down,
Yep.
Yeah.
house.
The health department was going to condemn the property, the residence that was there, but then this happened, so they stopped their proceedings.
I don't know, it looks like just a coat of paint is all it needs.
Yeah, fixer-upper, handyman special. or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, it needs a new roof, too.
are they still in it?
No, they are not. We had law enforcement go and verify that they are not there. I think there's a hole in the roof and in the floor, and there was a large number of animals living in there.
So it's basically uninhabitable right now.
Correct. Yep, in its current state, it would not be habitable.
Must have been red at one time.
So it's just under a half acre?
Correct, yes.
This, you've had some inquiry on it?
I know some of the neighbors were interested in buying it to tear
Get
it down.
rid of it.
Mhm, Sure.
They tear it down?
I believe there's a shared driveway, because I believe the driveway, if you follow it, there's a property behind it with a residence back
Yeah.
there as well.
And it's just out of town.
Kind of behind the McDonald's.
Oh,
The interstate is where it's, if you go back there a little ways, it's behind
It'd be
that.
down the hill, though, from.
Right.
Do either of you have a recommendation?
You hear anything from the neighbors?
I know in the past, we usually drop them all down to 0, just to get bids out there. That's up to you.
Or at least do the unpaid taxes and expenses.
I would say,
Right.
don't wanna go any lower than the unpaid taxes and expenses.
So 2,000 to round it up, but
Yeah.
this is a crazy time for real estate. This is a crazy time for homes. With, you know, the available properties are, there aren't very many available properties, not very many homes that are available for sale. A lot of people want to move to the county. So I'm surprised that there haven't been, you know, some kind of, anyway. But I would agree with John, at least the unpaid property taxes. I'm expressing my surprise. I'm not, it
Well,
isn't
but,
a-
yeah, I don't know. We could make it for 1857, 1,857. And see what happens. I mean, if the neighbors want to get together and chip in $500 apiece or something, should be able to cover that. I'll move to put on the market for $1,857.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any other questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor of offering the Sumner residents for $1,856.86?
Well,
sig-
actually, did you say
I just rounded it up, $1,857.
$57?
Okay, $1,857. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, now we can go to the Blair one.
Yep. We'll republish it, correct.
Which one, the 408 or the 108s?
I had 108 next, so
So
30 by 80 foot lot with a building.
That has a hole about this size in the front window, so everybody can crawl in there. I'm sure kids have been.
Oh, that's a storefront or old storefront?
Yeah.
This is right on Broadway?
Yep, next to my buddy's garage.
Thinking about doing the same thing for this one then also?
I made the motion last time, so we have other committee members. I think.
Well, I'll make a motion then. The 108 West Broadway Street property for $2,477.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, and finally, the other Blair property, 87 by 110 foot.
It's an empty lot, right?
Yeah, just to clarify, those pictures, those buildings are behind the empty
Yeah.
lot that's for sale. Yep.
Okay, so it's just that orange lot. So it's a vacant lot in the city of Blair.
I'll make a motion to put it on for 1,300 and I'm not gonna worry about the penny, $64.
Can round it down. Yeah. Okay. I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second. A motion and a second to offer the 408 South Main Street property in Blair for $1,364. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
No, like, somebody could come in and bid more than this, right?
That's the minimum.
That's the minimum.
We're sort of auctioning things.
And if I can clarify, what will the process be? Will there be a timeline, deadlines?
We set a timeline, and these are sealed bids, so no one knows what anyone else is bidding when they submit them.
Mm-hmm.
But they do know that this is the minimum.
Yes, yep. We have a form that we use. It'll get published in the newspaper. We'll also put it on our website again, and then we'll set a date, and then we'll have to open the bids at that point in time and see who's high.
And you'll bring that back to us to approve the bids then?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that lot in Blair, somebody buy it just to keep someone else from buying it. I mean,
Sure.
so.
All right.
Okay, any other discussion on the foreclosed properties? Okay. Counties for, receive for county, rebid necessary for county foreclosed. There's no rebids then, since no one bid on anything.
That's what you guys just did.
Yep, you just
Yep,
did that.
okay.
Correct. Yep. Mhm.
You
Okay.
did 9 and 10.
Nine, that's what I was asking, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So then, Rick, your
Yes.
corporate counsel position?
Number 11, and what I'm handing you is a
Oh, boy.
project initiation form. It's not 100% complete, and I'm going to explain it in just a moment.
Thank you.
I'll wait till I get in front of us, in front of my microphone before I say too much.
Thanks.
Right, so what I'm proposing, and at this point in time, it's not subject to necessarily approval from this committee, but before I take a next step, I just wanted to see if this committee is saying, nope, it's not going to happen, or go ahead and at least look into the possibility. So this is a it's going to be a request to create an assistant corp counsel position in my office. I originally was going to wait and put it into my budget for the 2023 budget cycle and propose it at that point in time. But I moved it up for a number of reasons, and I can kind of just go over those. So let me just find my notes here. So I met with some of the department's staff that I do a lot of work with in December, just because we try to get end of the year type of thing, how are things going, things we need to do, things we need to improve, whatever the case might be. As this committee is aware, I've been using contracted counsel to help with certain cases since June of 2020. And for my 2021.
Right.
And then my 2022 budget, I had requested that money be taken from, I had a part-time legal assistant position, and I moved that over to the contracted counsel line item to continue utilizing that individual. That individual is doing fine. Just a couple of the things that are precipitating this to be done sooner rather than, or requested sooner rather than later. So when I met with some of the staff in regards to, I'm going to, for example, use the guardianship protective placement aspect. Those cases continue to increase as the baby boomers continue to age. those numbers are going to continue to go up and rise. And so the caseload in that particular area is going to continue to increase as time goes on. So obviously, as those cases increase, that's going to take on more time out of my office. The mental health commitment cases, those are actually becoming much more complex. About a year and a half ago, the Supreme Court issued a ruling that said that there were some additional requirements that we have to do when we're going through those processes, particularly the recommitment process. State Supreme Court, correct, yep. And I won't go into great detail, but to give you an idea as to why. So when a person is recommitted, we have to prove that they still have some aspect of dangerousness that would qualify them or fit the criteria for recommitment for another year or a period of time up to a year. In theory, when a person is following the conditions of their commitment, they should be doing better, and maybe the dangerousness aspect isn't as prevalent. So there were some cases that were appealed to the Court of Appeals and Supreme Court that says, well, if a person's not considered dangerous, they don't fit the criteria, so therefore the recommitment process shouldn't be utilized on those individuals unless they've done something in the past year that qualifies them as dangerous to themselves or others. Well, we have a relatively significant number of individuals that if you take them off commitment and they're not forced to do medications, they're not going to do their medications, and we're going to be right back in the same place that we were to begin with. And it's that period of time where they're going to be struggling with their mental health needs that is a concern from the mental health perspective. So the court was trying to balance out the need for making sure someone's not under recommitment if they don't need to be, but then also making sure that they fit the criteria. So again, a lot of information there, but bottom line is they created some new guidelines, I guess, for lack of a better word, that we have to kind of jump through in order to meet those criteria. Those additional criteria are requiring additional witnesses, more in-depth evaluations from our doctors. It's requiring more time in these cases to make sure that from a county's perspective, we're providing the services to the individuals who need them, knowing that if they go off, this is likely what's going to happen. So that's kind of believe it or not, that's a brief summary of what has made this a bigger issue. The other thing is that the public defender's offices across the state are appealing these cases, that issue particularly, all over the place. I'm actually just dealing now with my 4th appeal in 2 years. The previous 3 years I've been here, I had 0. So these things are coming in fairly quickly. Other counties are doing them much more than what we are doing here. Court of Appeal cases they're quite time consuming because the consequence that the Supreme Court has said is if you don't meet the criteria, they get off of commitment automatically. It doesn't go back to the circuit court, it's done. And so we need to obviously make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. So this area has expanded significantly, and we're increasing the amount of time that we have to spend within the office on dealing with those. I do the Court of Appeals cases. I don't have contracted counsel do that. She does the initial and the recommits. But if there's a move to more restrictive, if someone's not doing well, I still handle those for a number of reasons internally that it's easier for me to do that way. So those areas of the law and the cases are expanding pretty significantly, and I expect them to continue expanding pretty significantly over the next months and years as well. So those are some reasons why this request is coming forward. The other is, I do as much as I can. Carrie, she's doing great work. She has a private practice she needs to maintain as well, too. She's not always available when there might be something that's time sensitive that needs to be answered. So I get contacted, which is perfectly fine, but kind of to some extent defeats the purpose of having contracted counsel, because then I get involved. I'm helping resolve whatever's going on. And so then it takes away from the time that I'm trying to spend on other things, which is why we have contracted counsel in the first place. Having somebody in-house kind of takes that part of it away, because they would be dedicated to the county themselves, and they wouldn't have a private practice that they would need to do outside of the realm here. Another reason why I'm doing this now is you guys gave me $18,000 for contracted counsel. In the event that this does move forward, that money could be utilized to offset whatever salary would be attributable to the assistant corp counsel position. And then the other thing is the workload itself. Part of the reason I was trying to separate some of those cases out from what I do is because there are a number of things that require my attention that I'm just not getting to. Going through policies that the county has, going through the ordinances that we have that the departments want to revamp because of changes in law or changes in policy within the department, whatever the case might be. There are ordinances where the statutory references are no longer correct, and so we need to go through and do those. Again, policies, employment policies, regular policies, just a number of things that I just don't have the opportunity to get to because of the workload that's going on within the office. So again, this is going to be my request. The reason this is not 100% complete is I don't want to go on the next step if this committee thinks that this is not something that really is a viable option moving forward. I have not gone to personnel bargaining because they would have to approve a job description, a potential for a salary, which we'd have to get in contact with the people who did our wage study. So there's just a number of things that would have to happen next, but again, I didn't want to necessarily go that route unless I had at least had your blessing to at least check on the next steps.
Chuck, I have two.
Go ahead, Tim.
Two questions.
Yeah.
Microphone.
It's on. Beat you, George. It's already on, George.
Yeah, I got two for some reason, so.
Actually, a question and sort of a referral. You mentioned the $18,000 offset, but in the report, there's no, not even a ballpark figure. What would be a ballpark figure for the salary and benefits for this person?
You know, I can give you a number, but it's a complete guess, because I've talked to a couple other counties, and I didn't bring that with me. My best guess is somewhere in the ballpark of 50-ish.
Was that with the offset?
I'm not including that. That would just be like a general
Yearly salary.
Your annual salary. But again, that's my speculation on it. I've talked to a couple other counties and what they do, but they aren't necessarily comparable in size. And so I would rely on the wage study company that did it to give us an accurate assessment of that.
Is it 50,000 salary or salary and benefit? The benefit's going to add 50%.
Correct. Yeah. It would be salary from my perspective, and then the benefits would be added onto that. Correct.
More like, you're on that committee, 75,000? That'd be a ballpark figure. If it's a 50.
That's way low.
Way low? Is it be 100,000?
No.
Yeah, okay.
The total benefits and salary would not be 100,000.
Okay.
No, it would not be. In my mind, it would be somewhere in the ballpark of 60-ish, give or take, however many thousand. That's just a ballpark. Again, I'm speculating on that. I don't have any basis for that number whatsoever.
All right, thanks. Second question, Sally, I'm going to ask you for your help. I'm not the overload you mentioned falls under the purview of maybe the social service committees, mental health and child care and things like that. That's where you mentioned the overview. I'm not on any of those committees.
Sure.
Can you shed any light on this? You are the supervisor who, in this room, is on all those committees. Hate to put you on the spot, Sally.
That's okay.
I was going to run over there, but
I think I've had enough coffee. Yeah. So if you, be specific what?
well, Rick has mentioned, and I know from other visits he has made to this committee and in other committees, that the overload is coming mainly in the areas of, and correct me if I'm wrong, or add, overload from public defenders. You just mentioned appeals on mental health cases, child care, all kinds of child care stuff. Guardianship, that's what I'm looking for.
Correct.
And those are the areas in which you are being, your services are being taxed or overloaded, and I don't really know much of anything about any of those. Can you shed anything on the workload in those specific areas?
Okay, so I get what you're asking then. Okay, so one, I think we as a county board are a full-time job on our own for him.
Repeat that?
We as a county board are a full-time job for him.
Board and committees,
Yeah,
Oh,
just
okay.
just his providing legal oversight to make sure we don't drive the bus off the mountain is probably in and of itself a full-time job. But I can tell you that in the committees that I serve on, we are seeing an increased demand for services for people suffering in a variety of situations that we as a government need to help respond to. I can say that the court calendar is heavier than I've ever seen it. I know that the district attorney has reported to the county board that he's filing more felonies than he's ever filed. Oftentimes, these types of cases also involve co-occurring events, which would be things like addiction. There's probably some sort of abuse or undiagnosed, untreated mental health within the situations. And so it would be entirely possible that we could see 3 or 4 different departments being pulled in. And as Corp Counsel, a lot of this would probably fall under him to kind of coordinate the various responses and services. In addition to that, yeah, the child support. You know, if I could tell you that as what I do for a living, working with families in crisis, that when I'm up here in the hallways of the courthouse, Rick is going in and out of the courtrooms quite a bit. And so as he's come to the various committees that I serve on to address different issues we're dealing with, these are all things that I see that are consistent, that are representational of the just the rise in crises that are happening across the nation, but certainly in our county. We don't have access to some of the things that they have in bigger cities. We don't have public transportation. We don't have a lot of direct service agencies outside of the government that are providing help, and so a lot of this will ultimately fall to us, and it would fall to him to make sure that we're staying in our lane. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Could you know, tripling the budget for contracted service, would that help? If we tripled the budget for contractor service, we'd still be 60% of the cost of a new position.
Well, not having done a deep dive into his budget or anything else, but I just know that in terms of delivering consistent services and having knowledge of cases is critically important to delivering consistent services. If you have people coming and going, you do not know who the next person is that's going to answer the phone and take the case, we're going to see a delay in the delivery of services, and probably not the best delivery of services. Having somebody who's got an office, who's sitting there, who, if somebody needs this service, that person's sitting at a desk and they're working for us. We're not on some sort of a queue where we get prioritized based with perhaps their private clients or other things. If they work for us, they work for us, and we won't be in a situation where they're trying to decide whether or not they're going to put us on a list of priorities that we need them to put us on. We are mandated to provide services to people, and if we don't have the ability to respond quickly, I would think there would be some legal exposure. Beyond legal exposure, we don't want to not respond to people when they need us. And I know that from when I'm trying to reach out for legal services for my clients, we're always begging, we're always in the line hoping to get some sort of priority, and I don't think that we can afford to have that, hoping that we get bumped up the list of priorities for somebody who's working to make sure that we do what we're mandated by law to do. Does that feel?
And that's how I was going to respond to that question as well, too, is just having that person. And then the other thing, and not to cut you off, Judge Reike has been, I think, to some committees and even the board, indicating that at some point, hopefully not too far down the road, we'll get a second judgeship here, which will only make things a little bit more challenging in scheduling purposes. Because if you have 2 judges hearing similar types of cases, obviously I can't be in 2 places at one time, and so that would also pose a challenge. Again, obviously the contracted counsel is helpful. I'm not saying it's not helpful at all. I just don't know, you touched on something, it's the continuity of providing smooth transition of the services. Having somebody here, I think, would be a smoother transition, for lack of a better word, than a contracted counsel. And again, I'm not saying that our contracted counsel person is not doing a job, but they have private clients as well, too, that they need to tend to as well. And so I think sometimes there might be a little bit of a disconnect in then providing that information.
Yeah, and I think that, when you look at it, if we're just a one and done, we're not, they're going to give us just so much of a preferential treatment. If we're just, the county may call me back, as an attorney, they might say they may call me back 6 months from now or 9 months from now, and so we won't be a priority. The service is being provided. We have to. It's not optional. This isn't like, we get to pick or choose. Everything that I know that just from having looked at the job description of Corp Counsel when we did the hiring when I was on this committee, these are all things that are mandated. And then, like Rick said, the law's changing. The law changes all the time. It's a living, breathing thing. And so, what was required last week is, I can promise you, next month there will be something else that we'll all be like, wow, I didn't know that changed. And so, I definitely know that we need to make sure that whoever is assisting us considers us their top priority, and they won't consider us their top priority if we aren't their employer. That's my opinion. Good?
Yes, thank you
I will
very
go
much.
back
I
to
think
my-
that helped.
We tried so hard to drive the bus off the mountain.
Yeah, I'm still trying to follow that one.
Great answer, but anyway, have you got a spot, a placement, or a room?
I do, and there's a couple other things that Sally's comments reminded me of. I've tried a couple other options before going to the Assistant Corp Counsel position, before coming to this position, this situation. As you all know, I tried the part-time legal assistant in my office, and then the contract counsel. And those things just aren't fulfilling the need that we really need to fulfill. So I do, because when we had that part-time legal assistant, I created a new workstation within my current office. So we do have my paralegals, and then we do have an empty one at the moment as well, too.
That's
So,
the one next door to you there?
the one right outside my door, and then the one when you first walk in,
Oh,
the entrance.
okay.
So I do have the workspace and the computer, and everything is already there. Yep. Mhm.
Okay, any other questions for Rick? So all you want is not a formal approval, but.
Correct. Because I still need to bring back more information for you guys to make that decision.
And then we can make a, but you didn't want to go through it if it was going to be shot down immediately.
At least, if you guys were like, you know what, this isn't the right timing for this, let's revisit it again another time, I don't want to necessarily go through that process, so.
Sally?
Yeah. I will say that just recently, and I apologize if I can't remember the committee, but just within the past few weeks, I was sitting on a committee with Rick, and I sit on several, so, in which we were talking about a next step, but it all was contingent upon the creation of this position, and it was, please help me out.
Sure, it was the law enforcement committee, and it was the consideration of the director position in child support.
Right. So we actually, there are, in that committee on that situation, even what we would be doing with that position was contingent upon the creation of this. And at that level, it made sense what he was talking about. And so, yeah, it has come up. Every single committee, it has come up. There are things that would streamline some of what we're doing as a county if we were able to create this different way of doing business, so.
Good point.
Yeah, you're going to be up next, so.
I can definitely see where this would be an advantageous thing to do.
I would
And
be
like
in
you said,
favor of it
continuity
also.
would be far better if
Let
it's
him-
in-house versus out.
Let him continue with the
Right.
process, and then we can, if we may need to in the end, we may have to shut it down.
Sure.
But as of right now,
Yep.
I think we see a need for it.
Okay.
Until you can come with more specific numbers and
Okay.
things like that.
Perfect.
Chuck, that was, I was just going to emphasize that. I think Rick's estimate of $60,000 for this position is probably an underestimate. So if the salary is $50K, the benefits are going to go much more than $10,000. So I certainly recognize the need, and I thank you Supervisor Miller for coming up and, ad-libbing this. We'd certainly like to see, you could invest more time in a harder number.
Sure. Definitely, yep, I'll do that too. Mhm.
Okay, is this something
Okay.
you would have for us next month already? or-
I should, because I'll go to personnel
Okay,
bargaining
it's
later
just
this month.
so we know to put it on the
Yep,
agenda then.
we'll put it on.
Yes,
for
put
next
it on the
month.
agenda for the next month. Okay, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, Sally, you're up.
You did. Okay, so I don't have a formal presentation for you in terms of paperwork or anything because it's not that thing. When the opioid settlement was announced and some of these things came forward, I was in the middle of kind of a multi-level, in terms of my life, place where I was trying to assist people through my job in receiving services, and then also on the various committees that I work on, different needs were being talked about and different gaps in services to people were being talked about. One thing that our county severely needs is direct service to people who are in in some sort of a crisis, and that crisis could be anything from homelessness, not having enough food insecurity, undiagnosed, untreated mental health conditions. It could be something, addiction treatment. We talk about wanting to address the problem, but there's not direct service for that. And a variety of other things. We have people who are for various reasons, interacting with the criminal justice system, and then when they are released from jail, they are in a situation frequently where maybe they are not able to return to their home. It could be a situation where they are, it's a domestic abuse case or a child abuse case or something, elder abuse, any number of things where they are, as a condition of bond, not even allowed to return to the home. We have people that are unable to access affordable health care for various reasons. And some of us may have started getting phone calls about a year or so ago from the librarian here in Whitehall, Amanda, who was concerned because the library had become a default resource center for people leaving jail. And bless her heart, she was doing her best to do a response. I see Adam behind me. Adam works with the Extension Office, Project Proven, and various other resources to help people that have interacted with the criminal justice system who are unable to successfully come out of jail for various reasons, homelessness being one of them, other things, access to resources and such. What is I do my job as a domestic abuse, well, I'm a victim advocate at this point. I work with all victims of abuse, as my job description has changed as a result of just things happening around the nation. But what we do not have in our county, and I alluded to this earlier, that a lot of other counties have, is we don't have a lot of resources that people can go to get the help. The county has the mandated programs that we provide, and that's what we do. We do what we have to do by law. Sometimes we even fall a little short on that due to staffing or lack of resources. But there are a lot of programs out there, agencies out there, that are actually receiving grant money to provide services to the people in our county. They're getting federal grants and other grants to provide services to the people in our county, and they're not, because they don't have a brick and mortar place to do it. Independent Living Resources assists people who have varying degrees of differing abilities who want to live a more independent life, but they are located way down in South La Crosse, down past the Walmart down. They are way down South La Crosse. We don't have public transportation. We don't have cabs. We don't have buses. The rideshare type programs that are out there are really sketchy at best with what's available here. The transportation that's provided is more scheduled unless it's like you get on the bus and then on certain days. These individuals are only able to go get services for, use these services for maybe doctor's appointments or such. But to access the services from legal action, independent living resources, addiction treatment programs, any of these things, people have to find a way to get to La Crosse, sometimes South La Crosse, to access the services. These agencies are getting grant money to provide services to our county, but they're not doing it at the full level that they could, and it's because they don't have a place here to do it. And
Can I interrupt for a
Go ahead, Paul.
So,
Go ahead, George.
as part of the grant application, they claim to be serving Trempealeau County.
Right.
And so that the grant money gets pumped up because they're serving another county.
Right.
Okay, I wanted to be clear on that.
Yeah,
That seemed,
yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and a lot of times the federal government, especially if they're providing grants, will look at a regional area and say, okay, this agency is located here, and they'll provide services. And it won't even be a case that this particular agency wrote the grant. It will be that the federal government said, because you're located here and these counties are around here, you will provide the services. And they, staffing is an issue, transportation, and then where do they provide the services? Where do they actually have these things? Where do they meet? I have an office in Whitehall. That's where I do my job. We frequently are contacted by these other agencies asking if there's any place that they can meet with clients or such. I'm always referring my clients to these agencies. I am always holding these agencies accountable for what they are supposed to be providing to the residents of our county. And what I hear back from them is, well, yeah, but we don't really have a place to do it. We can't afford to actually have a brick building. And so when this opioid money came, when we realized what was coming, I had talked to John. I just kind of walked into his office and sat down and said, okay, so here's what I'm proposing, that we create a a location where these different agencies can come in, they can have an office space that they send their employees to. We will provide the office space, they will provide the services they're supposed to be providing. They will provide them in county. They will provide them here. They will create an accessibility that allows the people in our county who need these services to get them. The money these agencies are getting paid to provide the services, we are going to say, okay, you're getting the money to do it, here's a place to do it, create this outreach office. The need is great. I could spend 2 hours telling you how on the various situations that people are running up against, just the people I work with. There have been times I have gone over to the Whitehall, the park out here in Whitehall, to meet with clients of mine because they are homeless. They've had to leave a situation, and they're homeless. And going to the homeless shelter in La Crosse, which I've been to it, and they're doing the best they can, but I wouldn't want anybody I know and love to go there. Rather than go there, I mean, if you work in Whitehall, you work in Arcadia, you're not going to drive it takes me 40 minutes, because we do the speed limit in this county, 40 minutes from Whitehall to Galesville, and then another 30 minutes for me to get to UW, which is close to where the homeless shelter's at. Am I going to, if I were homeless and I have a job and I barely have enough money and I'm trying to save, am I going to be able to afford to drive back and forth to there every day for a job and then to this shelter? We don't have a homeless shelter. When people say that, we have a homeless shelter in Trempealeau County, we don't. Western Dairyland has 2 apartments, and they are short-term, 30 days or so. That's always a changing situation, so they might call you and say, wait, no, this has changed. We've got 4 apartments, or we don't have any apartments. But we don't have a homeless shelter. What we have is a couple of apartments that people can move into if they meet the criteria. Affordable housing we have some, we don't have enough. Our housing authority is incredibly impossible to get access to, and that's something we ought to look at. Trempealeau County Housing Authority, I have yet to be able to get a person to get an apartment in there, and I think there's other people that would probably be able to share the same stories. Legal action, these are people, people need access to affordable, not just criminal. I mean, if you're being accused of certain types of crime and there's the threat that you could lose your liberty, you could put in jail, and yeah, you get access to a public defender, and if you make too much money, then a court appointed, and it gets kind of complicated from there. But what if what you need is a lawyer to help you leave an abusive marriage? Or what if you need help, you're being treated unfairly by an unscrupulous landlord or something? There's a lot of reasons that people might need free legal services that is not court appointed. And so legal action comes here. They come to my office once a month and provide services to my clients as they go through screen through, but they would love to be able to have more office space. Catholic Charities provides different services. They have no office space. We tried to get them into an outreach situation over in Arcadia, and kind of fell through. It was a church and it was a private situation, and the church exercised their right to say, no, we don't want people coming and going all the time. St. Clair's Mission is a low-cost, no-cost medical provider. It's what you would maybe refer to as a free clinic. We've been working with them. They oh gosh, it was before COVID that they were going to be bringing in a mobile clinic, and then I kind of got stalled by COVID. Yes, a lot of work's been going on behind the scenes to try and get these things for folks. And so what I know is that getting a place for these people to provide their outreach services that they're getting money to provide is, I think, a priority. And so what I would like to do is when the ADRC vacates their facility, I would like to create, I don't want to call it a resource center because it's created a lot of confusion. People think it's the Aging and Disability Resource Center, and so, but it would be an outreach resource center. It would be a help center. It would be I don't know, we'll come up with a wonderful name. Yeah, it would be something. It would kind of be like the ADRC for everybody else, but it would be a place where people could get these services. We could have, we would be able to provide maybe, I know that individuals, I've gotten so many calls over the years from the jail, a jailer saying, I've got an individual leaving the jail, he or she can't go home, they have no winter coat. Do you know of anything? And I have a list of places I can refer them, but it's, maybe the person has an addiction or they're under a no drive. And so how are they going to get to La Crosse to these resources or such? And so Adam and I have talked off and on over the years. I sat in on some of his reentry he'd created. He's done amazing work and done an incredible job of making me more aware of things beyond even what I knew of what our needs were. So if you guys wouldn't mind, I think I'd like to have him kind of come up and maybe share some of what he's seen, because Adam knows stuff.
Go ahead.
Adam up.
Yep. Adam, you want to speak then?
Adam, you should tell the folks out there who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah. Who are you?
Hello, I'm Adam Trenzo, Youth and Families Educator for Trempealeau County Extension through UW-Madison. To Sally's point, I agree with all of the points that she brings up. Other things I'd like you all to consider is how much AA or NA is in the community and how accessible is it. Let's say a community member has a mental health diagnosis and wants to reach out and help other people. Where does he do that in Blair Taylor? He could talk to the church, community center, but maybe if you're going to a mental health group, you maybe don't want to see people, have people see you coming and going to the library, different places like that. So having something accessible. La Crosse County has a new Reach Center, and in that you have housing, you have Lutheran social services, you have all these people. So you just say, go there, they will help you. Where do we have that in Trempealeau County? We say, go to the housing authority, best of luck. We say, go to this place, they might have a quote for you. They might say, no, thank you. Go here, go here, go here. What we've been doing is sending them to the library because they can stay warm and look things up on the internet. But we just don't have a landing spot to help people more easily navigate the roadblocks that we've put to them getting back to their normal lives.
I've talked to you, and like I said, Adam and I have talked back and forth that when Amanda had called me one night and she was just so distraught, and I think it was before a county board meeting. I know you had gotten a call from her as well, but it really weighed heavy on me. I'm somebody who left a career in journalism where I wrote a lot about government and crime and all these other things for over 20 years to do this, to work with people in crisis. And what I discovered was that it was a little more complicated than I thought, and there's a lot of intersecting of issues. And so when we start looking at how we're going to address all of the demands of the different agencies that we have, we are addressing those issues after they become a crisis, after they've reached the point that we now have to intervene. The Reach Center, and I'd heard about it a couple weeks ago, because we don't, a lot of services, they have some really cool stuff to do in La Crosse County, and when I call them, say, is this available for Trempealeau County? No, I'm sorry, our grant only covers La Crosse County or La Crosse in this county or whatever. And so it's frustrating, and it as an advocate who works with people in crisis, I'm always just really frustrated. As a member of the county board, I'm ashamed. I am. I think, but how long have I been doing county board? And I feel like maybe I could have addressed moving us in the right direction on some of this maybe a little bit sooner. And part of that is, how do we do it, and what does that look like? And everything has to intersect properly at the same time. You have to have your perfect storm of things in the right way. I have talked to different agencies. Legal Action, I've talked to them. They'd love more. St. Clair's Mission, yes, we want to provide more services out there. The Cooley Council on Recovery and Addiction. I went to high school with the executive director. I've talked to people providing services out there. They would love to come in and provide drop-in crisis hours. I've talked to people over at Viterbo about having their students who have the master's degree, who are working on the master's degree in social work, counseling, therapy, to maybe do an emergency drop-in clinic where different students put in their clinical hours here. We have people in Trempealeau County who are doing their master level work out of Eau Claire or in La Crosse or such, but they live here, and so wouldn't it be lovely if they could come here and do their clinical hours here, helping the people of their county? And so as I've reached out to different agencies to find out, if we had a place where you could provide services, would you do it? And I have not yet had anybody said, no, we can't. They've all said, yes, absolutely, we'd love it. If there was a place that we could do this, we would absolutely do it. And so this is a case of where if we build it, they will come. And like Adam said, a one-stop. We have services sprinkled all over our county, different services sprinkled, but if we have people who are, for various reasons, unable to drive, and it might not just be a criminal mandate, it might not be that it's a condition of bond or they lost their license for some reason. It might be that they're not comfortable. It might be that physically they can't. It might be they don't have the money for it. There might be a variety of reasons that they can't do it. And so having a place where if they come into the courthouse and they say, I need help, and Human Services says, we can't provide the service to you because you haven't reached that critical level yet that we have to intervene. Wouldn't it be wonderful if that social worker were to be able to say, but let me walk you across the street to this place where there will be somebody that can help you. And it would be a situation where we would be partnering with these other agencies, they're already getting money to provide the services, to start getting ahead of these crises and start helping people out of the holes that are starting to form under them before it gets to the point that our departments are now having to intervene and starting to do this. 211 is an information referral line that covers the region. We would be able to give them information. Okay, we've got this resource center that people can now access, and they would be able to give information. There's a variety of things we could do with it. I know that it absolutely on every level meets what the requirements would be for what we do with the opioid settlement money, because it's about helping. A lot of what we see people doing leads to addiction. Addiction is complicated, but we know that oftentimes addiction is something that's a result of undiagnosed, untreated mental health. It's unresolved trauma. It can be one bad thing happens and it gets out of control, and having the inability to access resources creates a worse situation. It's complicated, it's interwoven, but right now we are only addressing it when it hits the crisis level, and now we're having to expend resources to deal with it in a mandated way. A more humane and more cost-effective way is to provide services and an option for people who provide those services to come in and do it when people want help, and they come in, they say, I want help. That's the moment we need to be there for them. That one moment where they recognize they need help is the most valuable time for them, because they're there, they're ready, they want to. If there's no place for them to go, they'll give up, they'll go back, and that might be a lost opportunity to change a life. And it matters to us if you don't have the part of you that says, okay, well, I really want to see people happy and doing well and everything. The life-changing thing is economical as well. We expend a lot of money dealing with crisis, so there would be a budget impact that would be positive. I'm certain of it. And just because I know that when we start intervening, even in the little sphere that I work with, when I start helping people intervene in some of the crises, they're accessing county services less. Adam, I know that you work with Project Proven, so please tell some of what you've seen.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. People get let out of jail with a garbage bag with their summer clothes on, yesterday, last night, times like that. In the summer, most of them are like, yeah, I could probably find a tarp and go to the park here and survive for a few days before I start walking to the interstate. Things like that. Another consideration for why it should be here in Whitehall is a lot of times probation and parole require people, even if they are in a homeless shelter in La Crosse or Eau Claire, to come back weekly for check-ins. So that's another consideration. The other big thing with a lot of these is we need to make a big enough noise and say we've got enough infrastructure and people looking at this here in Trempealeau County to make those organizations say, yes, okay, we'll come 2 days, 3 days a week. Right now, they hear from Sally every once in a while, from me every once in a while. They're like, oh, yeah, Trempealeau County, we should really get up there. But they've got enough stuff going on in La Crosse or Eau Claire that they see us as kind of like, well, maybe Eau Claire is doing that, or maybe La Crosse is doing that. But what we need to do here is be connected enough to really say, okay, please, we have a group or somebody who's looking at this or a location to start pulling these things together.
Okay, bottom line, what are you asking us to do?
John's the one that told me to come here and talk to you.
In simple terms, what do you want us, what do you expect from us?
Well, the discussions I've had with Sarah, I think it's a great idea, and we have this opioid funds coming, which would qualify for purchasing like the ADRC center across the street, which they want to sell anyway. We put considerable money into it already, remodeling it to make it an ADRC center, when we're putting rent money into it. And this actually wouldn't turn over to the resource center until ADRC or the new Justice Center is built and they move, ADRC moves back into this building. That would leave that building empty. That basically we would just have the building and have the maintenance on it and pretty much staffed by grant money or people from in-county students, like all the things you just said. So I think it'd be a great idea to probably invest this opioid money
John,
into the resource center.
I remember yes, it'd be a great idea. I remember the opioid money isn't, how much is it? I remember $45,000.
No, it's 900,000, but
900,000.
25% of
Our
that could
first-
go for legal.
I think well, the
Yeah.
first disbursement will be
I don't
big.
think it's enough. I guess that's where I'm
Oh,
going.
the first disbursement,
I'm hoping I was hoping Rick would stick around, but
Yeah.
the first disbursement should be a substantial
a few
amount.
100,000, and then there'll be a disbursement every year.
For like 8.
That amount probably should be enough to sustain operations and any expenses associated with it, over the course of, 20 years it's going to take? Yeah, so by then we'll know. By then, we will have been able to establish that there's been success. We've been able to establish a benefit. We'll be able to go get grant money. There's a lot of grants out there that you can't get because you, as a county, haven't, basically what the grantors are saying, yeah, we've got this money we will give you, but we want to see that you believe in it enough and you can execute it, and then you invest your little bit. It's kind of like seed money. You put your money in, you show us you can do it, and then we will give you all the money you need to keep going. That happens all the time. And so I'm absolutely confident that we will be able to find the grant money. And, but even if we didn't, I think, one, we would start to see cost savings. I know that the various departments that are affected by some of these service providers, what they do, probably would be able to get grants that would be able to go towards our portion of whatever we do. But the way I understood the opioid settlement from the county board meetings that we've talked about it, initial lump sum of a certain amount, a few $100,000, I thought I heard like 400, but
I'm not-
it always changes,
It
yeah.
shouldn't happen, it won't happen until June or so or something
Right.
anyway, so.
But then the rest of it coming in equal disbursements over the course of 20 years. And that, when you look over what it's supposed to cover, I think this is a far better investment than some of what they say you could do with it, which is billboards and brochures, like billboards and brochures. That, I'm sorry, but we don't need billboards telling people to get help. We need the help. We need to help them, and we need to give them a place to go. Billboards and brochures and public speakers? No, that's not going to cut it. We need a place where people can go get physical help, direct service, and it needs to be close enough that, they come out of, they get out of the jail. We want them to succeed. It costs money every time somebody comes into jail. We know that. We're building a building because of it. We want them to succeed because our job is to help people live the best lives that they can. And some people have every opportunity and every advantage, and some just kind of come into the world with a little less than that. And in other situations, you've got people who are. This isn't just about people coming out of jail. This is about everybody in the county who needs help at different times. The mental health piece. We do not have, I went into a clinic with a client who was in a very bad place a few weeks ago, and the assessment was adequate, and they were given an appointment for 3 weeks out, and it was down in La Crosse. And so the client was like, so how do I get there now? How do I get back there? How do I get back there? And so working with getting those services, Whereas, like the Cooley Council on Addiction, they're like, we can train people to come in. We've got NAMI, we've got the National Alliance of Mentally Ill, who would be able to partner with them. There's so many agencies and so many groups out there trying to help, that if there's a place where they can come and do it, they will. The people that call me as a county board member that say, I don't know who else to call, but because of what you do for a living or things you say on the county board, you're probably my best bet. And so I'm calling you, and what can you do? And I do the best I can, and then what I do is I don't sleep. I'm up until 3 o'clock trying to figure out who they can call, what we can do, who am I? I mean, notepad on the side of my bed for people that, I have an idea, and this person that called me at 8 o'clock tonight. We are a generous county as individuals, and we're generous people. The county board, I work with you guys. I work with the board. I know who we are, and for all the grumping and grumbling about how we spend money, we care. We care about people, and this is something we need to do. But this money that is coming, it's for helping people and bringing in, it's addiction treatment, and so we'll definitely be providing access to that, but then everything associated with addiction. And all the things that they're not getting help with right now is what is associated with addiction. And part of the treatment, part of the money is about also prevention of. And when we address these issues, we are definitely intervening on potential addictions. So yeah, buying the building. When I went to John, I just said, this is my idea. And I think that this is probably going to have if not a zero impact on the county budget, an absolutely low, which I know we will get grant money to recoup. The how it will work, I don't know, a few more sleepless nights and I'll figure that one out. But we have a team of amazing people that will be helping with that. The thought is, get the word out there. I want the word out there. I want people to be thinking about that, and know that behind the scenes, there's a lot of people that have been trying to figure out how to address the crises, and we talk about the addiction problem, we talk about these different homelessness, and we do a lot of public hand-wringing, and we do, a lot of posturing, but I'm a little less about posturing, more about getting stuff done, and I think we're at that point now where we have the opportunity to get it done, and I'm wanting to see us get it done, and that building, to me, is the most logical building. It's right there. People can walk across the street. They can imagine somebody walks into Paul's office and then they start spilling their guts, and I know it probably happens.
Well, it does.
Because he's the first door. He's the first door. Or even a security guard. It would be something as simple as, okay, I think I know what you're saying. You see that building right there across the street? Go right across the door. He could either walk across, or he'd say, I'm going to watch you to make sure you get across safely. And once they get in that door, then we have started helping them. Because one, we've sent them someplace where there's a variety of agencies and a variety of groups that are funded by their own. We're not paying them. They've got their own paychecks. They got their own funding. They got their own grants. We're just giving them a place to do their services and do it right here and start earning the grants that they're getting to provide services to our people.
Okay,
Chuck.
so there's no action we can really take right now. You have just thrown the ball out there, given us the idea of possibly looking at purchasing the ADRC.
Like I said, I had talked to John about it a few times, and then he said he wanted me to come in and talk to you guys about it. Yeah, Adam and I have talked about this thing for, feels like years, but maybe years.
Yeah, and we have the people ready for it. It's just having some sort of catalyst to gather around. And I guess one question that I would have for this is, what concerns do you see, or what sort of data or information would you like to see gathered to help make sure that this is something that would be a solid ask?
Chuck, can I?
Sure, or go ahead,
Actually,
Tim.
I'm not going to respond to that, Adam, because
Yeah.
to me, it's an irrelevant question. The request you're making is essentially to purchase the building across the street with the opioid money. And Chuck and I have both been on the property committee for 4 years or whatever. I think it would be helpful to you if we took your concept of an outreach center, which you have you have expanded on it in depth and in breadth, and you made a convincing case for that. And if you separated that concept from that building, we I don't know, I don't want to talk for Chuck, but we've had a lot of dealing with that building. I believe at one point it was up for sale. We did consider buying it. The price was extremely, way over market value. The owner was not willing to negotiate that price. So when you're starting to, you've got this grand humanitarian concept, and you're linking it to a physical office across the street, and some of us have a memory of problems, a long list of problems with that building. So you might think about separating the two. I mean, there's got to be other places in Whitehall that you could rent office space. That's my comment here.
Okay.
Do you want me to,
That's my comment. I don't know, it's up to Chuck whether you want.
Chuck, I'm trying to think about how I can weigh in here, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going to try to bring a slightly different perspective to the conversation, and that is that, Sally, what you and Adam are doing is creating an image of who lives in Trempealeau County and what the needs of people are in Trempealeau County. I think if you'd have been here, well, maybe you were here earlier and saw Ann's presentation about the park and the availability of information on our website and all that, lots of green and lots of trees and farm areas and things like that. And those of us on the county board and people who live in Trempealeau County have an image of who we are. I think you talked about how generous we are as people and how much we're willing to help and so forth. And yet what you're describing is a part of our population that's in need, critical need, or constant need even, that somehow doesn't fit into the green and the farm fields and the happy cows and, the bike trails and so, what you're doing is challenging us to look at the totality of our population, the totality of our demographic, to include everybody in that vision, knowing that not everybody's at the same happy level, the same happy space. And that'll be a challenge. That'll be a challenge not only for the board, but it'll be a challenge for the population as a whole, to come up to who we are and where we're at. That's the perspective I want to bring.
The idea is these people in need, hopefully we can get them to this happy area, the green spot that you're talking about, and that would be the goal. And there's definitely a need, or we wouldn't have got the opioid money in the first place.
and I had talked to Deb, and part of the reason the use of the word resource center made her think I was somehow addressing the ADRC without discussing it with her, and so I did reassure, no, there's nothing to do with that, in fact, something different. But the Human Services Board did have a discussion about what they felt the opioid money should go towards, since the Human Services Department was hit harder than any other department by the addiction problem in our county. And when she and I talked about it, she's like, yes, everything you're saying, that's supportive, that's consistent with what the Human Services Board discussed wanting. And based on what they're seeing, we are a county that has, there's a certain built-in stoicism that people have, and there is a certain idea that if people are having problems, it's of their own doing. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it is not. Oftentimes it is not. And one of the things that we look to do is improve the life for the most vulnerable of our population. Right now, the most vulnerable of our populations, whether it's folks with differing abilities, whether it's people that have various neurological differences, different types of mental health diagnoses or cognitive or all of this, we're seeing that they're there. Not every differing ability shows up in the form of a wheelchair or a changed gait, the way you walk. Sometimes it's deeper and it's under the surface, but it's there. And not everybody experiences the same reality nobody has the same reality, but the people who need help in our county are not getting the full measure of what's there. And the part that gets to me is that agencies are getting money. They're getting money to help our people. They're not at the level that they could be or that they should be. And the excuses that I've heard from people over the years is what, really rankles me. I do not like anybody getting money to provide services to the people of my county and then finding out they're not doing it because of the excuse we don't have any place to do it. And that's how we ended up with, different. I've reached out to these people. That's why there's some of these things are starting to come into our county, but they're meeting the challenges of where to do it. I am not emotionally welded to that particular building. I'm not. I'm welded to the idea. So, Tim, yes, I absolutely hear what you're saying, and I have been on enough committees to know some of what the challenges have been at that building. But John mentioned, yes, we've got the. We've got money invested in it. The location is good, but if there were another building right across the street somewhere here, yeah, I'm on. It's not that I'm emotionally welded to the building. I'm emotionally welded to the idea, and I do feel it needs to be within walking distance. What we know is, I know personally, and Adam probably knows the same thing, when people are at a crisis and they've reached out for help, they might only have the emotional strength to go just a few extra steps. The number of times that the district attorney's office refers people to my office, which is 3 blocks that way, and they walk out the front door and they never make it to my office. And I'll get a call from the DA or from the victim coordinator saying, did so-and-so ever show up? Nope. 3 hours later, they're not here. You can't get lost going from the courthouse to Randy's grocery store because I'm right across the street from that. It's that emotional, they had, every energy they had, every ounce of energy they had was to go in the building to ask for help, and they're just depleted and can't go that extra bit. So we do need to be close. Not everybody drives. Not everybody has that availability to call somebody. And so having it in the proximity of the courthouse is my priority. And if we say, okay, there's an empty lot, there's a square here that we can plop a building down, yeah, cool, I'm great, I'm fine with that. So.
You might.
Okay, John, could you take over? I've got class in about 10 minutes.
Sure.
You might recall, I don't want to, push this off into the future, but there are the plans for remodeling the old building are amorphous at this point. So I think there could be a possibility for having such a physical location and such an office in this building in the future.
And I've thought about that. The problem is that there's some agencies that provide services that can't be located where there's a law enforcement agency or where there's security screening. Their grants require that they provide like people have, like ADRC had to move over there because of the screening. They couldn't be where people were being screened. And there's some agencies that have things. The other thing is, do we want 30, 40 different people having keys to the courthouse? Because that's what would require that they have the ability to come and go as they need. So we would be giving keys to people who are not county employees. And that's, because I thought of that, yeah, let's just take over the main floor, let's take over this, let's take over that. But then it came down to the keys issue. How would they be able to come and go? Because a lot of people who work, I have office hours that I do late because people who work need to be able to keep their jobs, and they can't get here to my office maybe by 4:30. I have office hours where I sometimes can't meet with somebody until 5 o'clock because after they get off work and they get to my office, that's how late it is. So we would, that's when I provide services. Legal action sometimes does the same thing. So if we were to find a way to create a section that has no government offices in it and people could have that key, like I said, I'm open to how we do it. It's just that we do it and that we understand that we would not be controlling what they do. We would just be providing the space for them to do it. And we wouldn't want it to impact the operations of the courthouse in any way. And so that's a consideration, because I did think about that.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. I've put so much time into this. I've thought of every place we could trip. So.
I'm the one that asked for this on the agenda anyway, and I just wanted Cy to come in because she could really put the point across, and I want to comment. You did a great job. So anyway.
Adam and I we're going to keep powering away at this, figure out stuff, so as we get more
This is something
information.
that we have to do anything today anyway, so.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Item 13, discuss an action employee recognition. I'm not sure.
Wait for George, because
Oh.
that's his. But you
Oh.
only got 2 of you on right now, so you're not a quorum of the meeting until
Oh.
he gets back in here again.
Oh, okay.
Buy a snowplow. I'm kidding. Don't buy a snowplow.
All right, as long as George, I'm going to take, I'll be right back.
What was that?
5-minute break.
I might as well all go if we're gonna be.
Yeah, it's a recess here, so.
Thanks. Thank you for getting me on the agenda.
Think about possible use of the ARPA funds. We've heard from Tourism and Economic Development, the Veterans Department, the Sheriff, obviously Paul has mentioned something as well. The Health Department is also interested in, when they find the time, of creating a presentation for us as well. This is something that Extension has been willing to work with other entities within the county to come up with this proposal, and It's interesting because this is an issue countywide. If we read the county paper, we can see that Whitehall is in the process of thinking about the Whitehall School District is in the process of thinking about what to do with childcare. Arcadia and Blair already, both the school systems provide childcare to the residents of their school districts. This is a proposal which includes the county, and more specifically, a county building. But again, and this is something I'm encouraging everybody who brings presentations, is to find ways to partner with other people, other entities that have ARPA funds that they could put towards this. So what we're hearing is, well, I don't know yet what we're hearing, but I'm assuming it's the moon, in other words. So we're going to shoot for something maybe a little lower at some point in terms of how it is we can partner with other entities to make one of the major issues. Sally and Adam and Rick have all talked about the sort of human services needs, but we have needs on a level above that related to availability of resources. Broadband is one of them. Healthcare is one, but specifically here, childcare is another. This is a national issue. For our county, it could potentially be an economic development issue. Why is it that, but I'm guessing that these guys are going to mention that as well. So I see we have a scenario and state of daycare, and so I'm going to give it over to Adam and Melissa to pitch this, okay?
Yeah, so I introduced myself before, Adam Trenzo, Youth and Families Educator.
And I'm Melissa Kona. I'm Community Development with University of Wisconsin Extension.
So as George mentioned, we're here to talk to you all about a proposal with the ARPA funding. You've heard others. This is us kind of putting this on the radar. The main concept that we're looking at is we're asking for $2.5 million of the ARPA funding to invest into supporting agencies, organizations in their quest for providing daycare services, whether that's infrastructure, staffing, things like that. It would be grants to organizations for licensed daycare services. In addition to licensed daycare services, that can also include kind of providing a bridge to unlicensed daycare services to encourage them to become licensed. And then kind of a lot of the things that George was mentioning, it's allowing people to go back to work. It's allowing stability in people's lives, which, is important. And could draw people to our county, or at least see them not just choose not to be here when they they accept a great job, they're ready to move here, they call around for daycare and it's not available, then we lose a skilled, talented person. One thing just with that, like just even last week, there was a car crash between Pigeon and Whitehall. I live in Pigeon, I'm part of the first responders. I could have been there, I could have been helping people in a large car accident if I had childcare. We heard recently at a Whitehall school board meeting that a surgeon here in Gunderson is unable to make it to work because they don't have childcare. So this isn't somebody missing a job at a plant or something like that. This is anyone and everyone.
So one of the things that we wanted to highlight is just how much childcare has changed. It's been changing for a while. I know Adam and I are both parents, and it was difficult before the pandemic to find any sort of childcare at all, let alone quality, regulated, affordable childcare. Even for middle-income parents like us, it's a challenge overall. The pandemic has made it worse. I lost my childcare twice over during the pandemic. And, even someone who has resources, it's still impossible for us. And so, we're victims of the crisis just like everybody else. On top of that, childcare centers have faced, closures, staffing shortages, When there's been a COVID case, they have to close. And so even when there is care available, it's not always available because of the pandemic. Some of these places have permanently closed, including those in our county. And so I think sometimes people who haven't had to call around and beg for childcare, like Adam and I have, don't realize just how bad it's gotten. I mean, so many times people will say to me, well, I mean, our kids just went to Sandy. Why don't you call up Sandy? It's like, well, first of all, Sandy's 80-some years old and isn't taking children, let alone young children, And it's just changed from what it used to be of in-home childcare. And, Sandy spoke about vulnerable people in our population. We're going to talk about other vulnerable people, such as children, and the need for not only a safe place for children to go and for parents to rely on, but also quality, so that we can invest in our children that we have here in our county. And then there's kind of this urgent need with helping support the childcare system, because if these places close, it's really hard to get them started back up again. And so, we need childcare options now, and we'll need even more in the future. So I put together just a couple demographics of some of the childcare data in our county. We are located in a childcare desert, which means there's not enough available childcare spots for people who need it. Parents can go into a portal and report that they're looking for childcare, but when I've done that in the past, there's only been a handful of options that have come up, and usually those options are full. We do have about 2,000 children who are under the age of 5 here in Trempealeau County, so not old enough to go to school. Earlier last year, there were 5 licensed daycare centers in the county with only a few spots available. And those centers, had their own challenges with staffing and keeping the centers open. When the center closes, the parents are suddenly in a lurch to try to find care. One of those centers in Independence has now closed. However, Arcadia has opened a center since then. A lot of people will say to me too, well, isn't there a Head Start? And we do have a strong Head Start program here in Trempealeau County. However, that is mostly income-based program, and they do operate a wait list. So even, for middle-income parents, there's really no educational-based option. There are childcare centers, but there's no preschool type settings that we could go to. Even if we could afford it, it doesn't exist. So I just wanted to highlight, what some of the need is. I'll go to the next one.
Well, just with this map here.
The map, yeah.
So what this map is showing is orange and kind of yellow is bad. That means that there's families roughly in that area that do not have access to licensed childcare within about a 20-minute drive. Things that are green to blue, those are good. That means that those families roughly in that area have access to that sort of thing, and that there are slots available. So you may notice that Eau Claire and La Crosse, doing all right. Galesville, doing okay, but it's really the majority of our county lacks access to that sort of childcare.
And I know parents, in La Crosse and Eau Claire too, and childcare is still a challenge for them, especially affording it. And I know Adam mentioned, or George, about attracting workers. I'll tell you, I've considered taking jobs in Eau Claire or La Crosse because that meant there would be a daycare center there. And my child would drive an hour or two every day just because there wasn't a daycare option here in the county. And then, investing in childcare does have exponential effects. I mean, obviously for families and children to have safe, quality, affordable childcare services benefits those families and those children, but employers also benefit. There's less employee turnover, better employee morale when, employees aren't stressed and strapped for having to find childcare at the last minute when they know that they have reliable, quality childcare, that their children are safe while they're at work, and that they can rely on that to be available. Then employers benefit, less tardiness, absenteeism, less stress on those employees, and then that has better outcomes for employers. And then there's lots of research on investment in early childhood education and how it has long-term benefits on the physical and social development of children, and even overall community well-being. So those dollars that are invested early on in a child's life follow that through, and then have widespread community effects too.
Any questions about kind of the benefits or the need before we kind of go a little bit more into the ask?
I think we get it.
So the proposed process, and this is kind of a rough outline before, as has been the case kind of today, it's like, here's kind of what we're generally thinking, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, we'll proceed as necessary. So it'd be grants to entities, public or private, that can show capacity for licensed daycare. So it may be the infrastructure to get one going, or it may be supporting ones that need some extra support. Showing that they can provide services to a diverse socioeconomic group would be given preferential kind of treatment within the grant writing process, so making sure that they are open to all would be one thing, and then showing the ability to be sustainable over time, that it's not just going to be something that folds, in 5 years or so. And as we mentioned before, we see in the newspaper, Independence exploring different options, Whitehall exploring different options, Blair Taylor and Arcadia having put things in with great success and great need. The local survey for Whitehall School District was just on the front page headline, and it said that 240 some odd people responded to the survey, and all but 11 of them said, yes, absolutely, this is a need, and we want this to be addressed on a larger scale than it's being addressed by individuals going out there and choosing to open daycares.
Adam, I'm just going to ask the question up front. So you would, when you talk about public or private entities, you would think about possibly that would include the school districts?
Most definitely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And, kind of going off of Sally's request too, I mean, one thing to consider is investment in, say, like the annex building to be used as a childcare facility. And I don't know what the inner workings or backstory is with the hopes and dreams for that building, but, maybe even something like investing in facilities that you already own in order to kind of maximize those dollars and provide this service with what we already have.
I'm not even sure we still have the annex building, do we?
I think so.
Oh, sure? Yeah. Yeah.
I know that in the independent school district, that's one of their two options, is exploring purchasing the annex as opposed to building or adding on to their school building.
Another
Is
question.
that news to you, Tim? Is that news to you? Is that news to you, that was something they were exploring, or?
It was, I believe, someone asked, I may have asked him property about 2 months ago.
Okay.
And that's the answer. The answer I got from Jerry was, we have an offer, we're almost closed. But I haven't followed through. I don't know what the outcome has been.
Also, who would administer, whatever this amount, it should be, invest any funds into it, but who would administer it? The ARPA funds, this committee or this organization or the child care overseers? Who's going to administrate these grants?
We've talked about that too, and we would work with the county board of directors to distribute the grants in a meaningful way, whether that's through a particular department or different things like that, but we would make sure that it was streamlined with the accountability available, so it's not like you would have to create a whole new department or oversight or something.
And most likely you're looking at helping the schools. I don't think that there would be a lot of small private grants. There is money that is available to in-home daycares right now that they can utilize, and there honestly just hasn't been the demand like we would hope there would be. This is most likely more of a school-based model.
I have a question so we're kind of veering away from your presentation, but
Mm-hmm.
these are relevant questions. Between John and Paul, what is the most recent rulings or guidance on the use of the ARPA funds? Were we were a month ago?
We are about the same as where we were a month ago. The Congress has not voted on that S 3011 bill yet.
But in the initial ARPA proposal, childcare was one of
Okay.
the few things that were specifically
Have you,
mentioned.
have you sounded out school districts?
Yeah.
There's several of them.
Yeah.
Are they receptive, or you get different reactions? You know, how many, what are there, 5, 6 school
7.
districts? 7 in the county? And you're likely to get a different answer from every school district.
I think they're all exploring some childcare options. I mean, it's been pretty successful in Arcadia. They opened theirs in August. Blair Taylor is
It's open, yeah.
is open now. I know Independence is very interested at pursuing something, but they have some space constraints at the school now, so that's a hurdle for them.
Well, that might answer John's question. If it's a matter of channeling funding to the school districts, but they're actually administering the actual day-to-day operations of.
Yes.
I could hear your anxiety about we were supposed to hire 1 million, okay, we're supposed to hire a dozen more people, I know.
No. We're not asking you to start a childcare facility unless you're willing to, in which case we'll bring our children to work.
I think the key thing is, yes, when we reach out to the Whitehall School District, sometimes it takes the superintendent a little while to get back to us, but it was a very immediate, let's talk sort of conversation. And I think that when we look at especially Independence and Whitehall, and maybe even other school districts or larger entities, when they say, do we do this, do we not do this, and they're on a balanced edge, hearing that there might be some funding from the county might be that thing that says, yes, let's put it to a referendum, or yes, let's use this, and that might be what makes it viable in a whole community, whereas they're 90% there already.
I know that and I will, this is my line, once in a generation opportunity, I'm quoting Deb Sukla on that, and the opportunity to partner with other entities, governmental or otherwise, because we have the money available, is something that we really need to be taking very seriously.
George, are you making a list of all these requests for?
There is a list, yes.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to go through I remember,
I know Paul's got the list there.
I just have it written on my old agendas is what I do.
So.
well, let him finish. Okay, let's
Well,
one thing at a
For
time.
instance, broadband, when
Okay,
they came in and
broadband,
did their,
right.
they wanted the whole 5.7 thousand.
Million.
So that took the whole thing, or million, I'm sorry, yes. Then there was the ambulance service for 30,000.
Well, that
And
was
then-
a written proposal. Yeah.
Yep, and then the veterans office was 6,000, and then now this one for 2.5.
Well, in the course of, to add to this, pardon me for interrupting, John and Tim had both mentioned that, as did Kurt at our last county board meeting, there's a possibility of a need for some of that money to finish up either the remodeling or the courthouse. The sheriff's department came with.
The Baycom thing.
Pardon?
The Baycom thing, which we.
Right, yeah.
On the agenda.
Which is on the agenda for next month. And Register of Deeds will be coming next month to talk again about the digitization process that's going on with the, in the Register of Deeds office. So, yes, many of the, and you'll get to this, but I'll repeat what I had said up front. The broadband and childcare are both within the purview of the original outline of what these monies can be used for. Together, they would create a great benefit to the county in terms of attracting people and maintaining people. So that's I was really excited to hear that there had been some discussion around childcare related to this, to the ARPA funds.
And I think to add to that, when we look at this particular topic, it is foundational to everything else that we kind of talk about. If people don't have childcare, or if people don't have that early childhood education, a lot flows from that. And so that's just kind of an important thing to think about when we think about things that are hardest hit from the pandemic and things that are most critical as a foundational building block for the county. This one meets both of those very, very strongly.
I have a question now, with Blair, you just mentioned Katie Blair, they've already done their child care center. So how is this fair to them? They've already took out of their own pocket what they were gonna fund for Wells School District,
Yeah.
for example.
Yep, one of the things we have is potentially increasing their capacity. So whether that's bringing in new programs, new educators, perhaps if they built their buildings with some space to expand with that possibility, allowing for expanded hours, different things like that. So it would be open to everyone, not just the people
But
without.
just looking at the fairness of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what about, show us the money chart. Do you have a money chart?
Oh, we don't have, we removed that from the presentation for time-wise, but you're talking about how much it costs a family for childcare?
Oh, go
Or
ahead,
was
yeah.
that what you were referring to?
Well, no, I'm talking about, what you asked, 2.5 million, I believe?
Yes.
And where would that go? I mean, it would be this, basically a grant program that would be.
Yep.
Looking at these proposed process. Okay, I got it.
So it'd be funds that would be able to be pushed to schools, other agencies that might have the ability to do these, to take on that grant funding in a meaningful kind of oversight sort of way. And again, like you mentioned, this is a starting point of the conversation. That number is just kind of one that we put out there. We'd welcome any kind of spotlight put on this, because if we think about this, like who in the county is in charge of making sure there's adequate childcare? No one, right? And so this might be the first look at the county level of saying, hey, is this an emerging issue? Is this something that we can help with? So we welcome any sort of spotlight we can put on it.
It sounds like a true story you're reading.
It is true.
That's
Most of it happened to me this morning.
Oh, really?
And I didn't even write this, but yes.
Oh, this,
There we go.
I thought it sounded like you, but then you said something about your wife or something.
Oh,
Yeah, so I, oh, it's not.
you
Yes.
never know with me, Paul.
Yeah, this is me.
But actually, almost the same thing had happened to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's often the issue with an unlicensed childcare provider. Sure, they're a little bit easier to access, or there's more of them, but you don't necessarily have the leverage or the reliability of a licensed daycare provider as far as like being able to take your kids, or if they shut down, they shut down. You're completely at the behest of the childcare provider, and that creates a certain level of uncertainty and stress in a parent's life that can lead to other issues.
For us, it's just a different time we live in. Back, when my kids were growing up, my wife didn't work until they were all in school.
Absolutely.
But
It's
now,
the same thing. My wife quit working.
Yeah.
That was that.
But now
For 15 years.
if you don't have a dual income family, you just ain't gonna make it.
Right. And some jobs you really can't, some jobs you can't work from home and try to juggle kids. Like, you have to be there. Like, I talked to a nurse last week, and it's like, who's the most needed professional right now? A nurse. And was constantly having childcare issues and not having availability. Well, what does she do? And the rest of us need her right now. So, it affects all parents. Whether and affordability is a whole nother thing too. Is even if it's not even like being able to afford it, it's like those spaces are just not there. So I honestly don't know how other people who can't afford it. I think a lot of people can't afford to work because they can't afford childcare. or can't find it.
So anytime you hear people saying, nobody wants to work or we can't find workers, this is something that would directly address that in a meaningful way.
And what's nice about the school-based model is, it's a sliding fee scale, and so parents who are middle income do have to pay a substantial amount. It's almost $200 a week, which is a lot. But some of those spots are eligible for childcare subsidies, or it's a sliding fee, so it's not quite so much. But yeah, it's incredibly expensive when it can be found.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was interesting. I can understand my kids or my grandkids, my wife would go out and babysit for them out to Arizona just to
Yeah.
save some money on childcare.
And I think the pandemic really highlighted, too, the role that grandparents play now in providing childcare. When, my parents live in Minnesota, but they're here all the time, or my kids are there. And then when we couldn't see them for a while, it really highlighted how much of a role grandparents play in childcare now, because we don't have these other systems.
Again, we're of a certain generation. I'm fortunate, in a way, to have a small child, so I'm a little more in tune to what's going on. And I think one of the key phrases that you talked about was education-based childcare. Danny started at 3 in an education-based childcare in Galesville. That was the green area on the map. And the boost that gave her in terms of preparing her for school and for the processes that happen in school was it was unbelievable, even though it was only 3 days a week. So that, and again, that goes to Adam's point about how this becomes the base for many of the other issues that Sally and Rick were talking about. The children giving that's put in a plug, Head Start, on the whole process of being a citizen and being part of a community. So, thank you again.
Thank you.
Can I?
Yes.
I'm going to throw this out there and actually make a motion related to some of the ARPA funds. It seemed, we've been hearing numbers like 1.5 million and 2.5 million and 5.7 million being tossed out. Our Veterans officer came with a request for $6 million for
$6,000.
$6,000,
Yeah,
sorry,
wait a
for
minute.
wheelchair parts. And since then, I've talked to a veteran who's in touch with other veterans who say they're looking for wheelchairs and they just don't have any. And,
We just did order him one.
okay. I'd like to make a motion at this point to fill the request of the Veterans officer for the $6,000 for the wheelchairs that he needs for his office.
Can we actually do it? Can we allocate the money?
I don't have it on the agenda.
It isn't on the agenda.
Well, technically I do, a discussion action.
Right. But I mean, if this motion passes, can you write a check for $6,000 to the Veterans
No,
Office?
it's got to go to full county board.
Well, okay, yeah, but can we do that?
I think we could do
And
that.
that was one of the allowed expenses. You know?
I could certainly make a case that it's an allowed expense, yes.
Well, we could do it and just see if we get slapped if we, if we're doing the
I
wrong
would,
thing.
yeah.
Go ahead, make the motion, I'll second it.
I motion that we grant the $6,000 from the ARPA funds for the request for the Veterans
And then there'll have
officer.
to be a resolution written up for county board.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I mean, I think they would get the money no matter what.
Yeah.
It's so small as compared to.
This is what I'm talking about. It's like, why didn't
Why-
rewrite the
why fire
check
around with
before
it
he
anymore?
left? Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Can I?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Just before we leave, is there anything else you all would need from us, or what follow-up should we expect or explore?
I think, I don't see anything really happening with these ARPA funds until probably in June, except something minor like this, but.
Jeannie Nutter has offered to help me with developing a more of a process for this, and we're looking at the process that Pepin County is doing for requesting proposals. So my answer is probably within a week or two, we're going to have a form, and then pass it out to the people who've been here, and then give it to anybody else who's interested. And that way it'll actually say something like, what is it you're about? How does it fit into the four categories that were part of the original ARPA fund outline? What's it going to be used for? How is it going to be given out? That sort of thing.
Thank you.
John, could I respond to that?
Yeah.
I have a
letter
different,
from the ambulance.
different take on that.
Yes, I do. It's in my other notebook.
I want you to listen, George.
I'm sorry, is that?
I have a different take on that because I have the same reservations that when I hear this as I did when I was listening to Sally's sales pitch. And that is really the problem. The devil is in the details of the problem is connecting this wonderful concept to the actuality of administering it. That's what okay, we need a child care center. Okay, I mean, I understand, I hear you. If the money's going to be funded, if the county's going to sort of retreat and not set up, not hire employees, not do anything like that, and not take an active role, the county's just going to be a grantor of funds, then we need to know what the mechanism are you proposing for that. And we need to hear from the various school districts about how they receive that idea, and are they willing to be the agency or the form of government that actually administers. They are now going to be the entity that hires somebody, provides a physical space, listens to complaints from parents or anybody. We need to know how that's going to play out. That's what I'd like to know.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You and Jeannie are gonna have a fun one.
I think that's all we can do for now. Thank you very much for coming in. Item 15 was FEMA fund updates, and they're really,
You gotta go backwards.
13, okay, I missed that. Discussion action, employee recognition.
So, some years ago, there was a group of county board members and staff, department heads who came up with a proposal for increasing morale. And one of the proposals was recognition. You've been here 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And for a while, I remember Deb Sukla would come with during the anniversaries, and it was in the newsletter as well. Used to be in the newsletter. So I was at the retirement party for the technician in the Veteran Service Office, for Dawn Hamm, who had been part of the county for 42 years. I happen to know that Carol Bowick will be retiring at the end of this month after 44 years. And Renee Lyon will be retiring after 46.
And she already has.
She retired.
She has retired.
She did already.
Right.
yeah, in December.
So what I'm coming here to propose is that the county board, in times of retirement where there's been just extraordinary service over decades and decades, that we recognize that with an individual resolution, honoring those people and appreciating and showing our appreciation. And that's basically my request, is that this committee instruct Paul to bring 3 resolutions to the next county board meeting honoring the 3 people who've all put more than 40 years of service into the
Are we
county.
talking a plaque or just a?
I think a resolution copied and signed by the chairman and
When he was talking to me, can I talk?
Yes.
When he was talking to me, it was kind of like what we do for county board supervisors, you know, when we do their recognitions.
Okay.
yeah, and some of us
Something
only
on
serve
that.
for a couple years, and we get a resolution, so.
So that's something we want to have done for the next county board
Well,
meeting?
I had one suggestion.
Sure.
that maybe it should be part of the employee engagement team. That, since they are the ones that are supposed to be keeping
Well,
the employees with,
I'm talking about, and this is something that I felt and talked to employees about, there's this disconnect, that those are the employees taking care of the employees. As a county board, we need to say to the employees, not just attaboy, but we really appreciate what you've done. 44 years is a long, 46 years is a long time to be working at any place, and it requires a level of commitment that maybe we won't see in this generation or the next generation. So I think it's the county board that needs to be making the recognition.
then I gotta go one step farther. Dawn and Renee are done. I don't know when Carol's done.
21st is her last day.
Of June, January?
January.
Oh, the day after, what's coming?
Yeah, county board is the 20th.
Yeah, the day
So,
after county.
so
board.
it's still,
Okay, so I could
it's
get that one in there.
appropriate,
Are
I
we
think.
talking about bringing them out to the county board meeting? and then-
No, just passing a resolution and sending a copy is all.
But then read it at least.
Right.
Yeah.
We'd read each.
That is a modest request, George.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It is. I think it's a great idea. That's
Okay.
your
Paul,
motion,
can
I
you
would second
write-
it.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
probably ask each of those departments to help.
We
because
could do a retroactive for Renee.
We'll have to do it for the
Renee and
two.
Dawn.
And Dawn.
So I
think Carol just
if
one
it, if
day.
requires a motion, I move that we do instruct Paul to write resolutions of recognition for the 3 recent 40-plus year retirements.
Make them a little bit different.
I'll make it that a second.
Okay.
Did you second? Yeah, okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That takes care of that.
Thank you.
Item 15, the FEMA fund, as far as I know, we don't have any real updates.
There's nothing, we're still in that $250,000 range of the way over 600,000 that we submitted. We are working on the second submission, which we've already got about 30-some thousand submitted. But that part that, oops, that's right here. I'm gonna have to remember too to look there for the calendar. We don't know if Wamadi's gonna give us another calendar this year or not, but,
Problem.
but anyway, Integrity is working on resubmitting the ones that FEMA denied.
So did we get 250,000?
We haven't gotten it yet.
Or did they not give us 250,000?
No, it's down to 250-some.
600,000, okay.
Yes.
We haven't got anything, so.
We have got nothing yet. It's in the federal process, anyway.
I'm going to resist the impulse to say I told you so about this. I won't say that.
No.
This is
Well,
just
and
not the way I
I'm-
run my life.
And I'm still in a quandary of how Integrity gets paid, because at first they said they get it from a different pot, so it's not
Right.
the same pot as ours. But then they also told me that we have to pay them first before they can submit so that they can get paid out of that other pot. Does that mean then they'll pay us back?
Well, hopefully that was the next
Huh?
clause in the communication.
I'm hoping too, because that was the little question
Yeah,
I had.
I thought it was part of the FEMA funds.
No, they get it out of a different pot for administering, or whatever you want to call it, the submission.
Anyway. Set date for the next meeting, and it looks like we're gonna be another one that's late. It's the 7th of February is a Monday,
Yep.
so 8:30 again on February 7th? Is that fine with everybody?
It's okay with me.
Is there anything else we're missing?
Breakfast.
What else we can adjourn at 11 or 10:59?
But that's my problem.